Chapter 2972. Yiqing Luo's entire body was shrouded in a bloody aura. Coupled with her domineering and majestic aura, it made one extremely shocked. Fox St. Law didn't even have a chance to dodge. And there was no way to dodge. If she dodged, she would have to expend the last bit of energy in her body. Then what awaited her was possibly her body exploding to death or a backlash. Not dodging. Yiqing Luo's move was obviously filled with icy cold murderous intent. If she was hit, she would definitely die. Fox St. Law pressed against her chest as her brain roared furiously in her heart. You? Don't tell me you really want to see me die. However, there was no response from that cold and gloomy voice. In just a few breaths, Yiqing Luo's attack landed head-on. Fox St. Law's eyes were scarlet red and her strong survival instinct made her follow her own instincts as she quickly adjusted the profound energy in her body, gathering it into her legs. The scorching feeling instantly scorched Fox St. Law's heart. A burst of exploding feeling swelled her limbs and bones. Ah! A sharp scream came out from Fox St. Law's mouth. Just when the Fox St. Law thought that he was going to be forced to explode and die from the swelling pain, the Fox St. Law suddenly stopped. Suddenly, a warm current spread from the bottom of her heart. Like a source of warmth, it slowly soothed the waves of scorching feeling. Under this warm current, Fox St. Law's swelling pain, which was on the verge of exploding, finally eased down. Fox St. Law was stunned for a moment by this sudden change. But very quickly, she regained her senses as she raised her eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo vigilantly. Boom! A huge explosion exploded in the sky. The pitch-black sky suddenly surged with endless cold air. As another bolt of lightning fell. It was as if a huge hole had been torn open in the pitch-black night sky. In the dark night sky, lightning flashed and thunder roared. The icy cold air circulated in mid-air. Yiqing Luo's gaze was also attracted by this shocking sound. She frowned as she looked at the lightning flashing and thunder roaring in the sky. Could it be that the people from the upper realm had sensed that the lower realm's peace was disrupted and specially came to stop it? After all, Hell Palace, that was a powerhouse from the Earth realm. The people from the Earth realm had interfered in the lower realm's matters. That would violate the balance between the realms. He was also looking down on the authority of the sovereigns. But everything was not as what Yiqing Luo had expected. The rumbling thunder and lightning in the sky did not strike the people of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, nor did it strike the Fox Saint technique. He just kept tearing at the light on his body, dyeing the night sky. Yiqing Luo's heart had an indescribable feeling of uneasiness, which was attacking her. In less than the time it takes to burn half an incense stick. Suddenly, a ray of white light, like a beam of light, shot toward the sky where the lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A deafening roar rang out. The white light disappeared into the lightning and thunder. Then the sky returned to its tranquility. It was as if the lightning and thunder from before had never appeared. This scene caused everyone to be dumbstruck. They were truly unable to understand exactly what this wave of lightning and thunder represented. Everyone stared at the sky that had calmed down. Because of this, he did not discover it. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's entire face had already turned pale. She gripped the glowing flame fan tightly in her hand and curled up tightly. Her pearly white teeth bit her lower lip tightly, as though she was enduring something. If one took a closer look, they would be able to see that her body was trembling slightly. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyelashes very, very hard. Her heart seemed as though it had been knocked hard by something. She didn't see it wrongly. The direction where the white light appeared. Chapter 2973. That white light, what was it? The ex-saintess has ascended. Faintly, Yiqing Luo heard an extremely shocked voice. Yiqing Luo's body moved as her gaze speedily followed the direction of the voice and looked over. Next to the chaotic battlefield, Great Elder Miao and Second Elder Miao were supporting each other, while Fourth Elder Miao was walking at the very front. Great Elder Miao raised his head and stared at the spot where the white light had disappeared. He said, "The former holy maiden has ascended. The Miao tribe is completely hopeless." Second Elder Miao immediately raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. When he realized that Yiqing Luo's line of sight was also directed towards him, Second Elder Miao opened his mouth, looking as if he wanted to say something. "What are you looking at?" Fourth Elder Miao's face instantly sank when he noticed Second Elder Miao's gaze, and he swiftly turned around to slap Second Elder Miao's face. "Do you still expect that rascal to save you? You want her to save you after what you did to her just now?" Fourth Elder Miao's slap caused Second Elder Miao to lose his balance. Even though he was supporting the Great Elder Miao, The slap still sent him stumbling back several steps before landing heavily on the ground. Even Great Elder Miao was dragged along. He staggered a few steps back. His expression was cold as he shouted, "Fourth brother, what are you doing?" "I am teaching you the rules of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness." Fourth Elder Miao didn't bother to hide anymore. He looked at the two people in front of him with disdain. "Now, you are the dogs of the Palace of Darkness and I have a higher position than you. Don't try to show off in front of me with the rules of the Miao tribe." Great Elder Miao and Second Elder Miao were trembling with rage. However, no one dared to refute Fourth Elder Miao's words. This look of compromise. It was obvious that he had suffered a great loss at the hands of Fourth Elder Miao. Whereas Yiqing Luo, who was not too far away, heard their conversation clearly. Her eyes instantly darkened. The spy of the Miao tribe, it was Fourth Elder Miao. He told the dark secluded palace about the situation of the Miao tribe and told them to surround and attack the Miao tribe. It was Fourth Elder Miao. It was this Fourth Elder Miao, putting Xian in danger? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed as a trace of biting cold murderous intent flashed past. The place where the former saintess ascended is in the saintess yard. The overlord must also be there. Immediately bring people to break into the saintess yard, find the overlord and kill him directly. Fourth Elder Miao hadn't noticed that Yiqing Luo had already placed all her attention on him. He continued to give orders to Great Elder Miao and Second Elder Miao. Fourth Elder Miao had always been oppressed by the two of them because he was the fourth elder of the Miao clan. At this moment he finally had a chance to retaliate. He was so pleased with himself that he didn't notice any other details. When this sentence entered Yiqing Luo's ears, Yiqing Luo's expression changed completely. She raised her eyes and immediately looked in the direction of the saintess yard. This group of people, their target was indeed Dmo Xian. Fourth Elder Miao instructed Miaoda and Miao Heir to kill Dmo Xian once they found him. These words obviously meant that he was certain that the current Dmo Xian had no ability to retaliate at all. In other words, Fourth Elder Miao was completely certain that Dmo Xian had been poisoned, so he specially took this chance to kill Dmo Xian. This thought made Yiqing Luo's heart twitch fiercely. She didn't have any chance to hesitate. Chapter 2974. Yiqing Luo, have you forgotten that this palace mistress is still here? Just as Yiqing Luo was about to reveal her back without any worries, a complacent and vicious voice suddenly rang behind her. What followed was an aggressive fluctuation of qi, stirring up stormy waves in the air. Bam! Bringing along the power of the black qi wave, it landed heavily on the young lady's delicate back. The young lady's slender body flew out in an arc in midair. A red remnant shadow flew out horizontally. Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi and the others' green veins popped out as they hurriedly rushed towards the direction where the red robe flew out. Qi Yin flew in a circle. That red figure fell steadily into the soft phoenix feathers. Shiju followed closely as it stood by the side of Qi Yan. Its huge leopard head arched towards Qi Yan's back. Stinky leopard. Don't dirty this sacred beast's phoenix feathers. Qi Yan didn't change its sharp and unkind nature as it arrogantly raised its head and used its mouth to spread its wings. Shiju gave a low "awoo," as though it was feeling wronged. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest also rushed over. They raised their heads as they looked at the two huge war beasts on the horizon. Seeing Qi Yan catching Yiqing Luo, they heaved a sigh of relief, but when they recalled that Yiqing Luo had suffered from Fox Sacred Technique's palm earlier, they were extremely worried. Qi Yan, let us take a look at Qing Luo's condition. Yan Xiaoyi opened her mouth anxiously. However, the arrogant Qi Yan used its high and mighty fiery red eyes to sweep them a glance as it sneered. This sacred beast's master, this sacred beast is able to protect her. You're just a burden. Cough cough cough. On Qi Yan's back, that petite figure suddenly sat up. She covered her mouth as blood seeped out from the gaps between her fingers. An exquisite little face was extremely pale. Qing Luo. The few of them cried out worriedly in unison. Yiqing Luo held onto Qi Yan's phoenix feathers as she propped herself up as her eyes stared coldly in front. Fox Sacred Technique stood there arrogantly as he laughed complacently. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. She was certain. His move just now had definitely landed on Fox Saint Technique's body. Regardless of whether the Fox Saint Technique had used the power in her body that did not belong to her to dodge, or to completely withstand her attack. The end of Fox Saint Technique. They would all die. Why? Could Fox Saintess still stand there? Earlier, that overbearing and dense profound energy that struck her body. He didn't seem to be hurt at all. Not only did the Fox Saint Law not die, He even took the chance when she was worried about Dmo Xian. Gave her a slap. Yiqing Luo, do you really think that your judgment is 100% correct? What a pity. This palace master won't die. The one who will die will only be you. Fox Saint La laughed arrogantly, his eyes already filled with a raging storm. While they were talking, all of a sudden, a wave of dense and powerful energy surged out from Fox Saint La's body, as though it could attract all the air in the surroundings, turning it into a surging wave of air. That was the chill of absolute death. This made Yiqing Luo's heart sink a little. She pressed her hand to her chest. She had received a solid blow from Fox Saint La's palm strike. This palm strike had caused her internal injury, which wasn't light at all. She held her breath tightly as she adjusted the profound qi in her body, circulating it around her injury. Following that, she speedily fed herself a few pills to adjust her internal injury. Chapter 2975. Xiao Yi. Yiqing Luo's palm lit up with a raging flame as she panted heavily, using the mercenary group token between them to communicate. You guys bring Qi Yan and Shi Ju over to the place where the white light appeared earlier. What about you? Yan Xiaoyi replied quickly. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. Fox Saint Technique will not let me leave. Their target is Xian. Quickly go over. Don't let them find Xian. Miao Ji ascended. This meant that Miao Yi was the only one left in the Saintess Yard. Although Chi was guarding the place. But, the so-called person from the underworld palace of the gloomy darkness palace had yet to be confirmed, so no one knew who he was. In any case, the Saintess Institute must not be disturbed. Whereas Yiqing Luo used the mercenary group's token to communicate, which made Yan Xiaoyi and the others stunned. Following that, after hearing Yiqing Luo's words clearly, his heart was also in his throat. Dmo Xian was in the Holy Maiden Institute? Based on Dmo Xian's ability, was there a need for Yiqing Luo to worry? Unless, everyone recalled Yiqing Luo's soulless state not long ago. His heart couldn't help but thump violently. Dmo Xian was definitely dispelling the venom. At this moment, if Dmo Xian was found by the people from the Nether Palace, the consequences were unthinkable. Yan Xiaoyi knew how important Dmo Xian was to Yiqing Luo. She did not hesitate any longer. He whispered to the people around him, "Follow me." She immediately ran in the direction of the Saintess Yard. At the same time, Yiqing Luo also gave Qi Yan and Shi Ju an order. Qi Yan glanced in the direction of the Saintess Yard and snorted coldly. This holy beast is not interested in protecting those old, weak, sick and disabled people. Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to joke around with the medicine, her eyes were gloomy. If anything goes wrong over there, you better be prepared to go back to sleep. After that, she didn't even look at Qi Yan. Waving the devouring flame fan, the flames on his body swayed like a fire elf in the wind, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws as he attacked. The target of Netherworld Palace was Dmo Xian. The Fox Saint Technique would definitely not let her leave. She wanted to rush to the Saintess courtyard. He could only kill Fox Saint Law. Although she didn't know what method the Fox Saint Technique had used to be able to block her move just now. But, the foundation of the Fox Saint Technique was there. Can have a good luck once. However, it did not mean that she could continue her good luck. Fox Saint Fa seemed as though she hadn't expected that after Yiqing Luo had completely taken one palm from her, she still had some leeway to retaliate. The complacent smile on her face instantly froze. Yiqing Luo, how could you? That palm just now, the Fox Saint Technique had already exhausted all of its profound energy. No one knew, just as she was about to explode and die, that warm current not only soothed her restless profound qi, but it also soothed her restless profound qi. Slowly, the power that didn't belong to her was extracted from her body. Pull away. This meant that her body no longer had to suffer the pain of exploding to death or the backlash. But once he withdrew, her crippled body would be so weak that she had no way to go against Yiqing Luo. Because of this, just now when the power was withdrawn, Fox Saint Technique exhausted its last bit of energy and attacked Yiqing Luo, attempting to take away her life. That kind of power. Not only did it not cause Yiqing Luo to die or be seriously injured, it even allowed Yiqing Luo to counterattack once again. And she didn't even have the energy to evade. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with anxiety at this moment. Her mind was filled with thoughts of killing the Fox Saint Technique and rushing over to Dmo Xian's side. Chapter 2976. Huff! The raging hurricane stirred up everything around it. The raging flame wind blades shot out from Yiqing Luo's hands, forming a gorgeous sharp edge in midair. That raging flame wind blade was like a huge bloody mouth, as though it wanted to tear Fox St. Law's entire body into its stomach. Between Fox St. Law's pupils, patches of raging flames spread out. Her expression was twisted and sinister, and from her throat, there was an uncontrollable howl of unwillingness. Clang! Suddenly a black ray brushed past that wind blade which was about to land on Fox St. Law. The black ray was sharp as it collided with that wind blade. Instantly the air seemed to be compressed by something. The entire space seemed as though it was about to shatter. The raging wind howled, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Everything in the Miao tribe had turned into a piece of ruins. Looks like it's not that your luck is good, but there's someone who has been using his own life to protect you. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, a biting cold glint, as it swept past that sudden black ray. Others couldn't tell. She could absolutely tell. That black ray, wasn't it the profound yin qi which came from Wolf St. Law? It was Wolf St. Law. That person who loved Fox St. Law made use of Yiqing Chen's corpse to revive Fox St. Law. Originally, she thought that Wolf St. Law had used the resurrection secret art, causing his body to deteriorate, and was unable to stop Fox St. Law's actions tonight. She had not expected. Wolf St. Law was actually in the dark, silently protecting Fox St. Law. This feeling was really touching. Brother Wolf. Fox St. Law, at the moment of life and death, realized who was the source of the energy which was blocking in front of her, protecting her. Fox St. Law's face instantly revealed an ecstatic smile. A black figure gradually appeared in front of Fox St. Law. When Fox St. Law saw that muscular and imposing figure in front of her, the smile on her lips became even wider. Her arms encircled the man's waist. I knew it. It's you who are protecting me? Who were? Wolf St. Law's voice was slightly hoarse. He raised his hand, holding the soft little hand on his waist. He could feel the woman's soft and delicate body behind him, as well as that familiar fragrance. The Wolf Saint technique closed its eyes in satisfaction. However, this kind of warmth, in this kind of place, in this kind of situation was not suitable. Yiqing Luo didn't have the time to look at their warmth. Holy Wolf technique. Yiqing Luo's voice was chilly as though it could reverberate faintly. It's you who helped Fox Sacred Technique to block that move, and also helped Fox Sacred Technique to expel that energy which didn't belong to her body. Just now, Fox St. Law was able to be safe and sound in that kind of situation. Not only did he not explode and die, he could even turn the tables and give her a slap. Yiqing Luo had been guessing the reason behind it. After seeing the Wolf Saint technique, they understood. With the Holy Wolf technique, how could he just watch as something happened to Fox Saint technique? However, in the past, the strength of the Wolf Saint technique was inferior to hers. Not to mention now, after using the Resurrection Secret technique, what kind of strength could he still have to be able to block that move of hers? He also expelled the evil energy from the Fox Saint technique's body. It should be very difficult. Unless the Wolf Saint Law had made a deal with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Or perhaps the Wolf Saint Law forcefully displayed the Dark Secret technique. This thought made Yiqing Luo squint her eyes as she stared at the Wolf Saint Law in detail, sizing him up. Her gaze had only touched that not unfamiliar face of the Wolf Saint Law. Chapter 2977. TSK. I have to praise you, you're indeed an infatuated man. Yiqing Luo's smile was icy cold as her lips twitched. For the Fox Saint skill, you don't even intend to take your own life. Wolf Saint Law's breathing tightened. His hand which was holding Fox Saint Law's hand subconsciously tightened. When Fox Saint Law heard that, she suddenly felt flustered and wanted to retract her hand anxiously. Brother Wolf, what does she mean? What, don't want your own life? But before she could retract her hand, she was caught by Wolf Saint Law. For some reason, Fox Saint Fa always felt that the strong and powerful hand that usually held her hand was soft at this moment, as if she could not use any strength at all. She just wants to disturb our hearts, don't listen to her. Wolf Saint Law's gentle voice answered Fox Saint Law. Such gentleness. It was Yiqing Luo's first time seeing it. Even if it was towards Yiqing Qian. She had never seen Wolf Saint Law so gentle before. Was this the difference between a true love and a substitute? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past Wolf Saint Law's pale white face. Although Wolf Saint Law tried his best to restrain himself. But everyone could see that. Between Wolf Saint Law's brows, the creases were tightly knitted, and the cold sweat kept oozing out. It could be seen that Wolf Saint Law's current body was already in a terrible state. Right now he was just forcing himself. It seemed that in the actions of protecting the Fox Saint technique again and again, It had already caused Wolf St. Law's body to become more and more dispirited. Fox St. Law also felt that something was wrong with Wolf St. Law. Hearing his words, she felt even more flustered. "Brother Wolf, did you block the attack for me and hurt yourself?" Wolf St. Law panted, as though it was difficult for him to speak. "Don't let your imagination run wild, I'm fine." "Brother Wolf." Fox St. Law frowned, her face was filled with panic. At this moment she looked like a girl next door. There wasn't a single bit of that malevolent and terrifying look. Looking at the two of them talking, Yiqing Luo's palm wind moved, a cold murderous intent appeared in between her brows. "What do you think your appearance can change? You can protect her the first time, the second time, but can you protect her the third time, the fourth time?" Following Yiqing Luo's voice, Yiqing Luo spun the glower flame fan and it had already turned into a sharp weapon as she pressed forward. "Don't fight. Anyone who stands in my way will die." The Wolf Saint technique grabbed the Fox Saint technique's hand tightly, and the mysterious yin qi in his body followed the palm wind and split it apart. The two forces only collided in midair for several breaths of time. Yiqing Luo's attack had obviously gained the upper hand as she directly slashed a gap and dispersed that ball of profound yin qi. And the Wolf Saint technique took advantage of this opportunity. Pulling the Fox Saint technique, he quickly retreated. In just a few steps, he had already returned to the back of the enormous, dinosaur-like magical beast. "Yiqing Luo, are you very worried about Sacred Maiden Institute?" Although the Wolf Xingfa's hoarse voice sounded unstable, the ruthlessness in his tone was evident. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled violently as the icy chill in her eyes deepened. "You want to go there? You want to stop Gloomy Palace?" Wolf St. Law chuckled, "But it's too late." Yiqing Luo's expression congealed instantly. She pursed her lips tightly, not daring to open her mouth easily. She was very clear about the Wolf St. Law's sinister nature. There was a possibility that he was intentionally bluffing her. Chapter 2978. Yiqing Luo's fingers curled up tightly as she gripped the glower flame fan tightly, suppressing the surging emotions in her heart to maintain her balance. Although the appearance of this saint magic can't change anything, but this saint magic has brought you a gift. Wolf Saint magic didn't care if Yiqing Luo admitted it or not. Between his brows was a deathly stillness. Gift. These two words made Yiqing Luo's alarm went off. In her mind, three words instantly surfaced. Hell, prison, residence. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped hard. She instinctively turned her head, wanting to escape. But everything was already too late. Just at the instant when her footsteps moved, a hurricane filled with vigorous energy shot downward swiftly. The swirling sand directly blocked her path. Following that was a gust of sharp murderous aura, directly pressuring Yiqing Luo's face. The raging wind kept howling furiously. Yiqing Luo's body at this moment was exactly the same as when Fox Saint Magic's profound energy exploded, unable to move at all. As though both her legs were shackled and bound. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes instantly froze. The chilliness between her brows also magnified at this moment. She forcefully held on to her last breath, as her fingers pressed hard on the glower flame fan. Swoosh, 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 even with the glower flame fan's protective shield. That surging energy. It directly tore a few holes on Yiqing Luo's robe. There were even some red robes, dancing along the raging wind. Strong? So strong. Yiqing Luo's pupils slowly congealed. The expression on her face at this moment became extremely grave. The current battlefield was no longer something which those ordinary secluded palaces' disciples, or Miao tribesmen, could interfere in. They could only quietly observe the changes, waiting for any chance to escape. The surrounding gravel swept up the storm as though it was going to swallow everything around completely. Thick sand and stones surged. Great Elder Miao and Second Elder Miao looked at the corpses on the ground, and the Miao tribesmen who were huddled in a corner, shivering. Their hearts were in extreme pain. Yet now, even they themselves were being controlled by someone else. Second Elder Miao clenched his fist tightly and covered his chest. He wiped the blood off his lips and said, "Fourth Elder, you are lying to us. Even if they join the Palace of Darkness, they will not let the Miao tribe go." It was not only the Miao people. Even the disciples of the Dark Abyss Palace who came here today. Those so-called Vice Palace Masters, holy techniques and leaders. He had no intention of sparing their lives. They were from the beginning. He wanted to kill everyone here. The sudden and powerful energy permeated the entire Miao tribe. Even the previously complacent Fourth Elder Miao cowered at this moment. Hearing second Elder Meow's question, fourth Elder Meow's heart became even more flustered. Naturally, he could tell as well. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness did not intend to let anyone off. He had also been deceived by the people from the Palace of Darkness. But now he was being questioned by Meowda and Meowair. He couldn't reveal even the slightest bit of abnormality. Otherwise, even though the two of them had lost a lot of power, but if they joined hands they would still be able to deal with him. Fourth Elder Meow snorted coldly with a gloomy expression. In the Meow tribe, that bunch of trash, if they can't survive, then it's because they are too weak. I persuaded you to join the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, that's on account of our past relationship, to spare your lives. If you want to die together with the Meow tribe trash, then go ahead. Chapter 2979. Grand Elder Meow and Second Elder Meow were originally certain that Fourth Elder Meow was intentionally lying to them. But looking at Fourth Elder Meow's look. But it didn't look like he was lying. Especially when they heard that Fourth Elder Meow asked them to join the Palace of Darkness, that was to let them live on. The expression on their faces eased up slightly. Fourth Elder Meow, who had followed the both of them for several decades, could tell what they were thinking from their expressions. Fourth Elder Meow also eased up his tone as he suppressed his voice and pretended to be mysterious as he got closer to them. You've also seen it clearly, Palace of Darkness motive today isn't because of the Meow tribe. If you want to occupy a certain position in Palace of Darkness, then we have to help Palace of Darkness to achieve their motive. Grand Elder Meow immediately looked at the gorgeous young lady whose entire body was encircled with red glow, as though she was enveloped in a blazing fire. The young lady's eyes were icy cold as the energy she released was majestic and intimidating. He couldn't help but shivered. If we can settle Yiqing Luo, then there's no need for Palace of Darkness to take action. Who said Palace of Darkness motive is Yiqing Luo? Fourth Elder Meow had an impatient look as he interrupted Grand Elder Meow's words. Haven't you realized Yiqing Luo's bunch of brothers, and those two terrifying war pets, have all disappeared? Grand Elder Meow and Second Elder Meow's eyes flashed as they immediately looked around. Indeed, they didn't discover those figures. But we also don't know Palace of Darkness motive and what those people are going to do. How can we help Palace of Darkness? Second Elder Meow's white brows creased tightly as he asked. Let's follow Yiqing Luo's bunch of brothers over and see what they are going to do, then stop them. Fourth Elder Meow narrowed his eyes as his lips curled upwards in a sneaky manner. He raised his hand as he pointed towards the path which Xianxia and the rest had left on. As long as we stop them, then we will know what Palace of Darkness motive is. By then, as long as there's a chance, we'll help Palace of Darkness to complete their mission. By then, do you think? Whatever we want, Palace of Darkness will not give it to us. This. Recalling how he had been tricked by Fourth Elder Meow earlier, Great Elder Meow hesitated when he heard his suggestion. Fourth Elder Meow changed his expression and sneered. He turned around and left. Since you're not willing, I'll follow you myself. Don't say that I didn't warn you. After he finished speaking, he followed the direction that Xianxia and the rest had left in without turning back. Great Elder Meow and Second Elder Meow looked at each other. 5 fingers, clenched and loosened and clenched again. After repeating this process for a long time, he gritted his teeth and followed behind. Now they had no other choice. Whereas at this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was contending against that valiant energy, had already turned pale and her body, which was suspended in mid-air, was on the verge of collapse. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried about Dmo Xian and was struck by the Fox Saint technique, Yiqing Luo wasn't in such a sorry state. As expected of an interesting prey, in the sky, a cold voice sounded. It was as if it was coming from all directions. Just listening to that voice, everyone felt their scalps turning numb as chills ran down their spines. Even if it was Yiqing Luo, when she heard that voice, she couldn't help but frown. Her petite body gradually tensed up. That person. Chapter 2980. Boom, boom, boom. The deafening sound of the profound wave reverberated in the air. The ground, which had already turned into waste, along with the vibration, continuously cracked open again. With a burst of shaking, the earth quaked and the mountains swayed. Yiqing Luo was forced to squint her eyes by this force. In the midst of the hazy air waves, Yiqing Luo suddenly saw a tall and sturdy figure not far away following the profound wave. That person's figure was sturdy, dressed in a black robe, covering his entire body. Following the surrounding whirlwind, his robe fluttered, making a fluttering sound. The most shocking thing was, his entire body was shrouded in a thick layer of evil qi, wrapping him tightly within. Yiqing Luo only felt the azure dew bracelet on her wrist boiling hot. Beside her ear came Old Man Song's hurried voice, "It's him? The evil Qi from the underworld palace. Lass, you're not his opponent, quickly leave. Think of a way to leave." Underworld palace. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly trembled, her 5 fingers tightly clasped the glower flame fan, trying hard to stabilize her state of mind, forcing herself to open her eyes, sizing up that person. But when both her eyes completely fixed on that person, Yiqing Luo instantly felt a cold big hand, penetrating her neck, directly clutching her heart, making her heart suddenly feel a sharp pain. Her throat seemed to have lost the strength to breathe. This was from the earth realm, the power of the underworld palace? As that person neared, the chilly wind around them became more and more violent. Yiqing Luo's torn robe poured in the cold wind. 3,000 fine black hair, dancing wildly on her shoulders. Swish! Only to hear the sound of a figure passing by in the air. Another blink of an eye. The cold and gloomy breath was already close at hand, assaulting her nose. That person and Yiqing Luo was only 3 steps away. Close. That black evil Qi which enveloped that man was hazy, faintly discernible. Vaguely Yiqing Luo vaguely saw that person's face. That was a what kind of face? Even if it was just a blur. Yiqing Luo's impression of that face was still extremely deep. Facial features were still considered regular. If one only saw half of his face, he could be considered handsome. But if one looked at the face as a whole, that was simply shocking. Half of the face, from the forehead to the chin, had a deep gash. That gaping wound could still be vaguely seen, a ghastly wound. It was extremely terrifying and disgusting. From his forehead to his eyes, there was a mass of blood-red substance covering his face. If one took a closer look, they would have the illusion that an eyeball had popped out from the mass of blood. In addition, the man's eyes. It was a pair of eyes that made her body stiffen, as if she was in an ice house, unable to move. The chilly aura that assaulted their nostrils was accompanied by an austere aura. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted a few times. This person's aura was too majestic. Even she was not intimidated by him. If he took another step closer, Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. He wanted to move, but he couldn't. Heh! A chuckle escaped from the man's mouth. The cold voice seemed to be mocking something. He just looked at her quietly. Amidst the black fog, Yiqing Luo could see that the way that man looked at her was as if he had seen his delightful prey. Not bad, worthy for me to take action personally. That man's lips curled up coldly as he laughed lowly. Chapter 2981. People from the Earth Realm? Just spitting out these 4 words, Yiqing Luo already felt endless pressure, filling her lips and tongue. She shut her eyes, took a deep breath and continued, "You came to Nirvana Realm, aren't you afraid that the balance historian will arrest you?" That person's brows rose. The scar on his face as well as that red mark also started to squirm. "Since you're able to see through this seat's identity." His tone was obviously delighted. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly, forcing herself to calm down, fixing her sight on him. "Hell Palace's people, coming to bully people from the lower realm, aren't you afraid of sullying Hell Palace's prestige?" That person's eyes lit up as though a red ball of blood seeped out a ray of light. "You know this seat? You this young lass know quite a lot." He laughed sinisterly. "On the account that you've won my heart, this seat allows you to say out your master's name, after I hand you over to the Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace. This seat will then let your master take revenge for you." These words could only be described with the word arrogant. That person obviously didn't put Yiqing Luo in his eyes. Instead, he directly set his sights on Yiqing Luo's master. In the eyes of that person from Hell Palace, a lower realm young lady, how could she be so powerful? She even knew about the Earth Realm, Hell Palace and other news. There must be some expert behind her, there must be some existence. This young lass was chosen by the Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace. Then he would treat this young lass's master as his next prey. Ha! Yiqing Luo snorted lightly as the gaze she shot towards that person was filled with contempt. "I thought Hell Palace was filled with talents, an existence beyond the 3 realms. I'd not expected. It's merely a lackey of Seclusion Palace." As she said that, she pretended to make a disdainful sound. Although Yiqing Luo's face had a calm and disdainful look, but her fingers which were gripping the glower flame fan had already betrayed her inner thoughts. Facing this person in front of her, the aura from him was simply too terrifying. especially after her words were spoken. This person's emotions and that bone-chilling gaze became even more horrifying. She was betting. They were a bunch of lunatics who had gone crazy for evil arts. This group of lunatics, even if they were a group of lunatics that were neither human nor ghost. But he definitely still had his pride. Moreover, their self-esteem was even stronger than that of ordinary people. This group of unrestrained lunatics. Even the people of the Earth domain were terrified of him. Even the historian of balance was aware of the existence of this group of lunatics in this organization, but he still sat back and did nothing. From this, it could be seen that the group of madmen from the underworld palace were people that even those from the Earth realm did not wish to provoke. This kind of lunatic was usually the most free and unrestrained person. He especially couldn't allow others to humiliate him. Not to mention, comparing him to someone else's lackey. To Madman this was a great humiliation. That person's expression proved that Yiqing Luo's gamble was right. That person's gaze was like a death god, locking onto Yiqing Luo. His eyes were cold and indifferent. If it wasn't for the fact that Hell Palace owed the Mistress of Seclusion Palace a favor, why would I, Xiaba, possibly come down to the lower realms? That person bellowed furiously, as a frenzied murderous intent surged in his eyes. He suddenly raised his hand. The hand under his sleeve was extremely slender, like a withered twig. The most terrifying thing was... Chapter 2982. It was just a glance. Yiqing Luo felt her scalp turning numb. That strange hand quickly reached out to her. Her heart felt as though it was suffocating as it was squeezed. She tried her best to raise her breath, trying to avoid that Hell Palace's man who was Xiaba's attack. But she hadn't moved. She only felt a cold breeze brushing past her cheek. In front of her, a figure appeared, blocking her firmly behind his back. And that withered palm which was surrounded by black chi directly grabbed that figure's neck, hanging that figure in his hand. Yiqing Luo's body suddenly stiffened. The scene in front of her made her slightly stunned. That bamboo-colored figure was tall and slender, swaying in her eyes. Someone helped her to block Xiaba's attack. Replaced her to be strangled by Xiaba. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. When she saw clearly that tall figure's face in front of her. Her face instantly turned pale, her lips trembled slightly as she blurted out, "Gu, young sect master Gu." The person who blocked in front of her, who replaced her. He was South Continent's young sect master, Gu Jingyu. Why was Gu Jingyu still here? Early in the morning, after the King of Venomous Worms' inheritance ceremony had ended, hadn't most of the powerhouse's representatives left the Miao tribe? As South Continent's young sect master, shouldn't he have left earlier? And why did he run out to save her? Could it be that he couldn't tell that this lunatic called Xiaba was so powerful? That he wasn't afraid of any powerhouses in Nirvana realm? Even if he was South Continent's young sect master, Xiaba would absolutely not show any mercy. Yiqing Luo. Gu Jingyu painfully called out Yiqing Luo's name. That suffocating feeling made his face flushed red and green-purple as his eyes protruded out. After he opened his mouth, the words were squeezed out from the slits of his teeth with much difficulty. Go. Quickly go. Gu Jingyu's hands grabbed Xiaba's hand, as the strength of his struggle became weaker and weaker. You. Xiaba's gaze fell on Gu Jingyu's face, and he immediately frowned as if he wanted to say something. The torn wound as well as the blood-like rolling mark on his eye slowly wriggled. It was extremely horrifying and disgusting. Evil tyrant. Yiqing Luo saw that Xiaba's target had turned towards Gu Jingyu and immediately cried out sharply, "Your target is me, he's merely someone unimportant." Xiaba's vision shifted from Gu Jingyu's face to Yiqing Luo. Don't worry about me. Hurry up and leave. I will be fine. Gu Jingyu's hands were clutching onto Xiaba with all his might, attempting to make Xiaba's attention to himself, so that Yiqing Luo could gain some time to escape. Looking at that face which had almost turned purple from suffocation, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled fiercely. She gripped the gourd flame fan tightly, then borrowed the strength of the deep water ring. A dense aura lingered between her palms. Without any hesitation, her eyes were icy cold as she fiercely attacked Xiaba's hand which was raised up. Overestimating yourself, little prey. Xiaba sneered as he didn't continue to make things difficult for Gu Jingyu. His 5 fingers loosened. He casually waved his sleeves towards the direction where Yiqing Luo was attacking from. Black-colored chi, emitting a piercingly cold profound ray, headed towards Yiqing Luo's face. Powerful profound energy covered the sky and earth as it pressed downwards. That bone-chilling cold. Chapter 2983. Hell Palace's Madman. So strong. It looked like he just casually waved his sleeves. But he was able to bring along such a powerful profound energy. Yiqing Luo had originally suffered an internal injury from Fox Saint's technique. Following that was Evil Tyrant's counterattack. She couldn't hold on any longer. Her petite body was sent flying by the force of the backlash, until she flew more than 10 meters away. Yiqing Luo then managed to stabilize her figure. The loose strands of hair on her forehead stuck to her beautiful face. Her face was pale, pink lips were tightly pursed and her hair was in a mess. Obviously she was in a sorry state. Yiqing Luo panted heavily for a few times and following that, her vision immediately shot towards Gu Jingyu who had been released by Evil Tyrant and was lying limply on the ground. At this moment, Gu Jingyu was propped on the ground with one hand as he panted heavily. He, who had always been gentle and elegant, was in a sorry state at this moment. As though he noticed Yiqing Luo's gaze. Gu Jingyu panted as he raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. When his four eyes met with Yiqing Luo, that pale and frail face surfaced a faint, warm smile. That smile made Yiqing Luo's heart had a sour feeling. Her 5 fingers slowly curled up. She knew that Gu Jingyu liked her. And right from the start she had clearly rejected Gu Jingyu. Obviously there wasn't any deep interaction between them previously. But she had not expected. Gu Jingyu could actually disregard his own life for her. Even at this moment. To make her feel at ease. He even forced a smile to express that he was fine. This man. He was really an extremely gentle person. Perhaps it was because their gazes were too obvious. Evil Tyrant's eyes were filled with interest when he saw that Yiqing Luo wasn't seriously injured after his counterattack. Following Yiqing Luo's gaze he looked towards Gu Jingyu. That evil cold and treacherous gaze flashed. The interest contained in it was overflowing as it became more and more intense. The next moment he raised his hand once again. A gust of evil chi sprang out from his palm. Only to see that ball of evil chi quickly twining around Gu Jingyu's body. Ah! Gu Jingyu had yet to catch his breath when his arms were restrained by a gust of energy. Evil Tyrant raised his hand. Gu Jingyu's body was also directly dragged to the horizon by the evil aura. Evil Tyrant. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth as she stared at Xiaba. To deal with a lower realm like me, do you need to use an unimportant person to threaten me? Is this the power of the Hell Palace? Xiaba laughed coldly. His eyes were filled with ridicule and madness. He tilted his head and grinned. His smile was sinister and cold. In addition to that face, it brought about a strange and terrifying feeling. He looked like a madman. Is this your little lover? From the looks of it, compared to you, I'm far inferior. Xiaba cast a disdainful glance at Gu Jingyu. Little girl, your taste is really bad. What has this got to do with you? Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to explain her relationship with Gu Jingyu to Xiaba. Looking at Gu Jingyu's increasingly painful appearance, Yiqing Luo's eyes were about to burst into flames. Evil Tyrant. Since you are helping the Palace of Gloomy Darkness to deal with me, then come at me directly. Don't think that I'm really afraid of you who came from the Earth Realm. Looking at Yiqing Luo's infuriated look, Xiaba laughed even more crazily. As he laughed, a tyrannical and terrifying aura exploded from his body. That horrifying and disgusting eyes exuded a thick chill. Chapter 2984. Evil Tyrant's palm flipped. Gu Jingyu, who was enveloped by the evil chi, was pushed towards Yiqing Luo's direction by a strong burst of profound energy. Gu Jingyu's expression changed drastically as he immediately unleashed his own profound energy, trying to break the confinement of the evil chi. But his strength was not enough to shake Evil Tyrant. Instead he spat out a big mouthful of blood due to his anger. Qing Luo dodge. Dodge. He only had time to shout out this sentence. These actions seemed to have consumed more than half of the time. But in fact it was just a moment. Yiqing Luo saw the blood splattering in midair and heard Gu Jingyu's obviously weak but anxious voice. Her heart instantly felt stuffed. This evil tyrant was simply too sinister. Using Gu Jingyu as a weapon, to attack her together with the evil chi. If she avoided or counterattacked, the person who was seriously injured or even lost his life was Gu Jingyu. But if she didn't avoid, Yiqing Luo's eyes dimmed. The current situation didn't allow her to consider any further. Her body had already instinctively made the most direct response. Her 5 fingers moved and the glower flame fan was like a blazing flame, as it completely dyed her pair of charming pupils red. Following that, her figure turned into a red remnant shadow as she charged towards Gu Jingyu's direction. Gu Jingyu was shocked as he endured the surging sweetness in his chest. Qing Luo. Bam. A burst of explosive profound energy was released from Gu Jingyu's surroundings. That celestial qi actually suppressed the evil aura that enveloped his body in an instant. Although, it was only that moment of suppression. But it also gave Qing Luo a chance to attack. The glower flame fan in her hands quickly turned towards a direction. One hand took the opportunity to grab Gu Jingyu's shoulder. The other hand was the glower flame fan, which was filled with an intense vicious qi, as it collided with the evil qi which was attacking. Bam bam bam. A deafening explosion was heard, as though thunder had exploded. The entire Miao tribe shook violently once again. Qing Luo dragged Gu Jingyu, as her physical strength was obviously not enough. Under the collision of these two forces, she, along with Gu Jingyu, were sent flying. Young Sect Master Gu Yu, are you alright? After Qing Luo stabilized herself, the first thing she did was to support the man beside her. In a trance, Gu Jingyu opened his eyes. The young girl's pair of starry eyes were bright and resplendent as she looked at him worriedly. With just one look, Gu Jingyu felt that the empty space in his heart was instantly filled up. He curled his lips and wanted to laugh. But his whole body was drained of strength, so he couldn't lift his lips. Don't force yourself, take a rest first. Qing Luo immediately fed him a few medicinal pills and comforted him gently. Almost greedily, Gu Jingyu wanted to open his eyes and look at the face that was so close to him. His thin lips moved, wanting to speak. But it was the medicinal pill that Qing Luo had fed him, sealing all his words. The imprints of the successors of the four major sects have appeared. As the successor of the sect leader, you will receive the protection of the four major sections. Qing Luo's tone was very calm as her slender fingers brushed past Gu Jingyu's forehead. On Gu Jingyu's forehead, a feather-like imprint surfaced. This imprint was very similar to that fellow Yi Feng Yu's imprint. Thinking about it, this should be the West Continent, Gu Feng Sect's young sect master's imprint. Chapter 2985. Yes, your mark as the young matriarch of Wind Valley Sect has surfaced. Qing Luo repeated with certainty as her fingers moved away from his forehead. Gu Jingyu's hand moved as though he wanted to grab onto something. Between his brows, there was an obvious sense of disappointment. Qing Luo thought that Gu Jingyu wanted to raise his hand to touch his mark as she comforted him warmly. The pills I fed you are all high-grade pills. Rest for a while and you will be able to regain your strength. Gu Jingyu's lips trembled. Even though it was stained with blood, it couldn't conceal the paleness of his lips. Qing Luo glanced sideways as her peripheral vision shot a glance at Xiaba, who was looking at them eerily as she squinted her eyes. Whatever you want to say it later. She stood up and turned towards Xiaba's direction. She repeated what Old Man Song had told her previously to Gu Jingyu. The Wind Valley Sect mark on your forehead has appeared. The power of the four great sects will protect you. If the people from secluded Darkness Palace want to protect their own position in Nirvana Realm and cover up everything that they had done, they will absolutely not dare to touch you. Once they touch you, the Overlord will definitely sense the presence of the lower realm. If the Balance Historian comes to Nirvana Realm and interferes in this matter, then secluded Darkness Palace's painstaking efforts will all go to waste. This was like earlier, when her profound jade heart exploded with powerful energy, leading to the Balance Historian's detection. According to rumors, the lower realm's four great sects were the servants left behind by the God Emperor to maintain the balance in the lower realm. Once the acknowledged successor met with any mishap, that would represent the collapse of one side's power. The balance in the lower realm would definitely be broken. The Balance Historian would absolutely not allow such an accident to happen. Gu Jingyu's breathing congealed. Even though his mind was muddled, but he could still hear Qing Luo's words clearly. His half-lidded eyes blinked hard. He tried his best to see the young lady in front of him more clearly, but all he could see was that slender, yet filled with boundless energy from her back. Her red robe was cut into numerous pieces as it hung on her body. She was obviously in a sorry state, but there was a unique charm to it. It made one to have an inexplicable confidence in her. Inexplicably believing that even in a desperate situation she could create miracles. Have you finished saying your last words to your little lover? Xiaba laughed sinisterly, as though giving Qing Luo and Gu Jingyu the chance to speak earlier was already a favor to Qing Luo. Qing Luo's eyes were clear and cold, her slender fingers gently caressed the azure dew ring on her fingertip. Her lips curled up as she smiled lightly. Chapter 2986. Do you want to know the consequences of infuriating me? Yiqing Luo's eyes seemed to be surging with flames. Her lips curled into a seductive smile as she slowly raised the hand which was holding the glower flame fan. Her slender 5 fingers tightened one by one. The red feather fan seemed to be plated with a layer of fire. The azure dew ring on her fingertip also overflowed with red electric currents at this moment. Bit by bit it enveloped Yiqing Luo. Her entire being seemed to have stepped into a sea of fire as her entire body was burning with raging flames. The violent and ruthless aura entangled her. Consequences. Xiaba didn't think much of it. Lass, aren't you a little too confident of yourself? Wanted to let him have a taste of the consequences? He was the overlord of an area in the Hell Palace. Even the Emperor of the Earth Realm had to take a detour when he saw him. This lass actually wanted to let him have a taste of the consequences? What a huge joke. Xiaba laughed sinisterly. This seat's tolerance towards the prey has made the prey develop the thought of turning over and becoming the master. Looks like it's time for this seat to let you know. Just where is the disparity between you and this seat? Following Xiaba's words. Around him, an explosive whirlwind was quickly stirred up around him. Various kinds of violent aura followed the whirlwind. His attitude was so free to do as he pleased. He totally didn't put Yiqing Luo and the others in his eyes. He just stretched out his hand and pointed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That whirlwind became even more violent. Endless black aura shot out from his fingertips. Bam! That burst of black evil chi shot straight towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's brows were like frozen ice as her figure flashed and instantly evaded it. The evil chi crashed onto the ground, causing the ground which had already turned into ruins to splatter once again. That strike had a monstrous chi wave. Xiaba squinted his eyes, and when he saw Yiqing Luo evading this attack, his lips revealed a ridiculing cold smile. These evil energy blades won't end so easily. Let this seat see how long you can last. His cold and gloomy voice rang out in a leisurely manner. Following that, streams of black nefarious aura attacked him one after another like sharp weapons. Xiaba was completely nonchalant. Where is the finger pointing? Sharp blades made of demonic energy shot out from that direction. Furthermore, the chi waves surged like surging waves, one wave after another, becoming more and more turbulent. Such dense evil energy blades. To Yiqing Luo, it was like a submachine gun was constantly shooting at her. Just as evil tyrant was feeling smug and relaxed, shooting in all directions. Suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his raised arm. Immediately after, a gust of strong wind blew in the air. Xiaba reacted quickly and tried to dodge. But when he dodged to the side to avoid the oncoming force, he felt a chill run down his spine. Bang! A fist with scorching power landed on his face. Xiaba's figure was sent flying. In an instant, a series of rumbling sounds rang out. The ruins in the surroundings once again shook as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was splitting apart. A powerful surge of energy spread out in the air. Boom! Xiaba fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground. His body swayed a few times. He rubbed his face in pain. The place which Yiqing Luo had hit seemed to be on fire. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Xiaba's mouth. He raised his hand and wiped off the blood stains on his lips bit by bit. Chapter 2987. Xiaba's self-confidence made him totally not notice it. Just as he kept shooting out the evil chi-sharp blades. That figure which was speedily shuttling through the evil chi-sharp blades was already carrying a blazing rage. As it got closer and closer to him, the figure was flickering and flickering, getting closer and closer. Xiaba, who was totally unguarded and extremely conceited. Naturally he fell for it. Towards Xiaba's tricks. Yiqing Luo had already been trained countless times by that bunch of old men in the Yi family in different ways back in the 21st century. Facing a hail of bullets, she was able to barge through it without any change in expression. Moreover, it was only at Xiaba's level. Although Yiqing Luo had used the Azure Dew Ring's last extreme energy, plus using her own blink movement secret art to upgrade her footwork, she speedily moved to Xiaba's side and struck out these two moves. She had also successfully injured Xiaba and even saw blood. But after all, it wasn't a vital point that was injured. Just that after 2 mouthfuls of blood were spat out. Xiaba then wiped his lips as his expression had not changed at all. On the contrary, Yiqing Luo, after striking out 2 moves, the red electric current which was circulating around her body slowly dissipated. The young lady's flame seemed to have been sucked away by something at this instance. That slender figure floated gently in the breeze. Her face was pale as though she would fall down from mid-air at any time. This pair of moves. It looked as though Xiaba had fallen pathetically injured. But in actual fact, Yiqing Luo's energy consumption was even greater. It's been a long time. A long time since I've smelled my own fresh blood. Xiaba's sinister cold voice was slightly crazed as it rang. That withered finger of his lightly wiped his own lips. Black evil chi enshrouded. That lips, that hand were extremely terrifying. That pair of death god-like eyes was filled with an excited expression, staring at Yiqing Luo without blinking. He stuck out his tongue. It swept past the blood stains on his fingertips. He laughed again. His laughter was extremely strange, filled with madness. It made one's hair stand on end. Young lass, you're not bad. This seed is getting more and more interested in you. That gloomy tone, no matter how one listened, it was penetrating. Yiqing Luo's fingers were clenched tightly as there wasn't a single trace of warmth on her icy cold face. Her charming eyes were icy cold as she stared at Xiaba. Her breathing was slightly messy and heavy. This seat really wanted to ask the Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace for you. If I bring you back to Hell Palace, that bunch of lunatics would be willing to spend time on you? Ba grinned sinisterly as he touched his chin. The wound on his face and the blood-red birthmark kept wriggling as he grinned hideously. Faintly there was some evil chi. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Luo. Luo. Old man Tsang sensed Yiqing Luo's intention and immediately voiced out to stop her. Hell Palace's lunatics, none of them are normal. Furthermore, his strength is unfathomable. Even I can't detect his profound rank. If you were really brought to the Hell sect by him, even if the Overlord succeeded in curing the goo, he might not be able to bring you out of the Hell sect safely. If you're really brought to Hell Palace by him, even if the Overlord succeeds in curing the goo, perhaps he might not be able to bring you out safely. Old man Tsang's agitation made Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. Chapter 2988. Yiqing Luo was very clear about this point. It wasn't just the power of the azure water ring that couldn't be activated. She only had a few elixirs left to quickly replenish her energy and heal her internal injuries. Out of habit, she placed everything in the profound phoenix ring. She placed the profound phoenix ring beside Dmo Xian to accompany him. She only brought a few bottles of pills with her. If all of these pills were consumed, he would definitely die. With her weak body, she would not be able to withstand evil tyrant's attack. Only by using the power of the azure water ring did he manage to injure the evil tyrant. Now, without the power of the azure dew bracelet. Indeed, she was no match for Xiaba. Or perhaps, in her current state, unless she used the teleportation secret technique, she wouldn't be able to escape. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to force evil tyrant's attack away. Most importantly, she couldn't escape yet. Although the Saintess courtyard was complicated, with Miao Ji's cautiousness, she had set up a lot of Miaozhong formations. However, no matter how cautious he was, unfortunately, the Miao tribe already had spies from the gloomy palace. It was only a matter of time before the place where Dmo Xian cured the goo was found. She escaped. That would be giving the Palace of Darkness a chance to hurt Dmo Xian. Currently, Dark Nether Palace's people were worried that Saintess Institute had too many goo worms, so they did not dare to act rashly. However, if the madman Xiaba came, he would not have any misgivings, nor would he care about how many people would die. There was a high possibility that Xiaba had chosen to split the entire sacred nun courtyard apart to find Dmo Xian. She would never allow such a thing to happen. Miao Ji had already ascended. There was only Miao Yi in the secret room of the Saintess courtyard. She could not let anything disturb Miao Yi. Hopefully, Yan Xiao Yi and the others could bring Qi Yan and Shiju to stop the people from the Palace of Darkness. Jia jia jia. Evil tyrant's sinister laughter suddenly rang in his ears. That twisted and crazed face, his pair of bloodthirsty and greedy eyes stared at Yiqing Luo. Why? You were so arrogant just a moment ago and now you're refusing to speak? It's okay. Little girl, don't be afraid. He swung his right hand, which was almost crippled by Yiqing Luo earlier. The stinging pain in his arm made the smile on his face even crazier. The stronger Yiqing Luo was, the stronger the resistance. The more Xiaba thought about it, the more interesting it was. His crazed eyes were filled with admiration towards Yiqing Luo. Of course, this admiration wasn't the admiration of a senior towards a junior. Instead, he was extremely appreciative of the power contained within her body. So much so that he already had the impulse to cut open Yiqing Luo on the spot to study her profound jade heart, her meridians, internal organs and so on. His greedy eyes were blazing hot. How could Yiqing Luo possibly not feel it? She gripped the glowing flame fan tightly and glanced at the deep water ring. In her heart, she had already made up her mind. Wasp, you can't do this. Old Man Tsang sensed the ups and downs of Yiqing Luo's emotions and anxiously shouted out. Old Man Tsang, Yiqing Luo's voice was very light, with a trace of undetectable bitterness. It's always Xian who's been protecting me with his life. With his skills and strength, it was impossible for him to be poisoned by Miao Rongrong and Miao Yixiong. He did it to protect me because he loved me. She pursed her lips tightly as her eyes had already turned red. She tried her best to hold back the tears in her eyes, not allowing them to fall. Chapter 2989. How many times in the past I enjoyed Xian's protection and care, and I got through one crisis after another. Now, it's my turn to protect Xian. Protect the man, who has always loved me, doted on me, held me in the palm of his hand, doted on and doted on. Love is a matter between two people. She could not always rely on DMO Xian's love. And scrupulously enjoying DMO Xian's contribution. She also loved DMO Xian. Just like how DMO Xian loved her. She was willing to sacrifice her life for DMO Xian. However, her eyelashes fluttered and she lowered her eyes. I want to protect Xian. At the very least, I want to hold on until Yi can cure him of the curse. It's just that, I'm really sorry. Old Man Song wanted to say something. He suddenly felt as if the azure dew bracelet had been scalded by something. Even Old Man Song's body began to heat up. Old Man Song's tone suddenly rose. Luo girl, you. Yiqing Luo's bloody fingertip pressed onto the azure dew bracelet and said in a low voice, Old Man Song, I promised you that I would help you recover your human form. If anything happens to me, you should follow Xian. With Xian around, you will definitely be better than you are now. Little girl Luo. Old Man Song only had time to call out. Then, his spiritual body was corroded by the overwhelming heat. Yiqing Luo was forcefully removing the blood pact with him. Starting from Yiqing Luo's rage. Old Man Song realized what Yiqing Luo was trying to do, to stop Xiaba. But he didn't expect Yiqing Luo would really make up her mind. Furthermore, he was prepared to die. Just to delay Xiaba to buy time for DMO Xian to cure the poison. Yiqing Luo didn't even know if Miao Yi had the confidence to cure DMO Xian. There was no way to be sure. Would DMO Xian explode after removing the love goo? Only the centrifugal force goo was left. In that case, DMO Xian wouldn't even remember her. It was even more impossible for him to understand everything she had done for him. In this way, was there really any meaning to it? Even so, Old Man Song still didn't have the intention to ask. In front of him, gradually because of that drop of blood that Yiqing Luo had dripped in, it started to become hazy and blurry. Just when Old Man Song thought that he was going to fall into a deep slumber, suddenly something warm brushed past his forehead. A clear and ethereal voice faintly rang in his ears. She's always so reckless. This blood pact cannot be broken. I can only trouble you to continue taking care of her. That voice was ethereal, as if the wind was speaking. He spoke very softly and slowly. If one did not listen carefully, one might not even hear it. However, Old Man Song could hear the helplessness and faint pampering in that tone of voice. Who was that? Old Man Song tried his best to open his eyes. He wanted to clearly see who exactly was the person who could converse with his spiritual body. However, as that warm touch brushed across his entire body, Old Man Song could no longer maintain his consciousness and fell into a deep sleep. Yiqing Luo, who didn't know what was going on, thought that she had already rescinded the blood pact with Old Man Song, so she faced Xiaba head-on, fearlessly looking at him. Her pink lips, gently raised into an extremely shallow cold arc. There was no expression on Qing Cheng's face. That pair of charming eyes was flowing with a cold glint, without any warmth at all. Yiqing Luo didn't say any unnecessary nonsense. Her 5 fingers moved and the glower flame fan opened up. Chapter 2990. A dazzling red glow blossomed from her palm. The coquettish glower fan seemed to have blended into the flame as it kept burning along with the profound qi. She narrowed her eyes as her entire body emitted a murderous aura as she charged forward. Yiqing Luo's speed was extremely fast as her figure swiftly stuck close to Xiaba. Young lass, this seat will not give you a second chance. Xiaba gave a cold laugh. After suffering a loss from Yiqing Luo once, he was already on his guard against Yiqing Luo's figure. Adding on to the fact that Yiqing Luo had already lost the God Relic's energy consolidation. Xiaba only needed to put in a little bit of effort and he easily saw Yiqing Luo's swift revolving footwork clearly. He tugged his lips coldly as he speedily turned towards the direction of the attack and launched a counterattack. Both parties were instantly entangled together. The entire space was enveloped in this oppressive and terrifying aura. Yiqing Luo's attacks were vicious as she had no intention of stopping the battle. Whereas after Xiaba was injured by Yiqing Luo, his heart was already filled with anger. After exchanging over 10 moves, Yiqing Luo's body was already riddled with injuries. And by this time, Xiaba had already seen through all of Yiqing Luo's moves. Every time Yiqing Luo launched another wave of attacks, she was able to swiftly retaliate. This made Yiqing Luo's battle even more strenuous. Yiqing Luo was extremely clear about this change. No matter if it was Xiaba or that group of disciples who had escaped far away but kept peeking their heads out to spectate the battle, or the clansmen, they all understood the situation in front of them very clearly. Yiqing Luo was absolutely not Xiaba's opponent. Furthermore, the disparity was simply too huge. Young lass, this farce should end now. Other than bringing you back, I have other tasks. Xiaba's lips curled up coldly as he spoke coldly when Yiqing Luo was once again pushed back and spitting out blood. Yiqing Luo's hand, which was clutching the glower fan, tightened. Her breathing started to become messy. After hearing Xiaba's words, that emotionless face faintly surfaced a trace of complicated fluctuations. That pair of eyes couldn't help but flicker. Task, Xiaba's task. Was it referring to Dmo Xian? Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Following this, her eyes squinted as a piercingly cold light shot toward Xiaba like a sharp blade. Then, she lifted her slender fingers and quickly pressed them against her chest. Xiaba only assumed that Yiqing Luo had suffered a serious injury which led to her internal discomfort. He totally disregarded Yiqing Luo's actions. More accurately, he totally disapproved of Yiqing Luo's ability. Even though Yiqing Luo had injured him once. However, the moment Xiaba let his guard down, when he came back to his senses, Yiqing Luo suddenly waved the glower flame fan in her hands. Countless bewitching rays were emitted from the devouring flame fan in the form of red silvery threads that wrapped around Xiaba from all directions. Evil tyrant relaxed. He didn't even have time to react. His limbs were completely bound by the red silver threads. Yiqing Luo retracted her fingers. The devouring flame fan closed. The countless silver threads that wrapped around Xiaba's body also tightened. Xiaba frowned and his eyes turned cold. Xiaba. Yiqing Luo's voice was slightly chilly as her pink lips curled slightly with a bloodthirsty arc. I will not give you any chance to do other tasks. As her voice fell, she clenched her fingers even tighter. The red silver threads cut into Xiaba's flesh. Chapter 2991. Little lass, do you think this will be able to trap this seat? Xiaba scoffed lightly as he lowered his eyes to stare at the silver wires which kept embedding into his flesh, as the gloominess in his eyes grew. This was the second time he was hurt by this lass. Did she think that using the net created by the glower flame fan would be able to trap him? Little lass was still a little lass. She was still too inexperienced. Really? Then go ahead and try. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she gave a ridiculing smile. Her eyes were filled with disdain and ridicule towards Xiaba, as though she had absolute confidence towards the net which she created herself. Following that, Yiqing Luo unleashed her profound energy, as she transferred it onto the glower flame fan. Xiaba could obviously feel that the silver wires which wound around his body was getting tighter and tighter. You won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Perhaps it was because of this disturbing net which bound him till it hurt a little. Perhaps it was Yiqing Luo's self-confidence and provocation, which angered him. Xiaba's slender brows suddenly creased tightly, as his tensed arms suddenly lifted up forcefully. That shriveled 5 fingers, also clenched tightly into a fist. The next moment, those black profound chi which was cut apart by the net suddenly seemed as though it had spiritual consciousness, as it gathered together in a turbulent manner, as it surged towards Xiaba's direction, surging towards him. Vigorous and boundless energy. Instantly, it surged violently on Xiaba's body. The rolling profound energy was like a stormy sea as it kept on surging. Bam bam bam. A few cracking sounds were heard. The black demonic chi was like a thunder explosion. Those demonic red-silver wires which wound around his body instantly broke apart as it poured out in torrents. Bam. Yiqing Luo was also forced to fly backwards by this gust of energy, as she crashed heavily onto a piece of waste rock. GGG. A sinister smile was overflowing from Xiaoba's mouth. Qi waves dispersed. Xiaoba stood in the middle, safe and sound. Other than the blood on his body which had been cut out by the net, his entire person seemed as though nothing had happened before. His expression had not changed a single bit, whereas this scene made those onlookers who were afraid of death all sucked in a cold breath. Xiaoba actually broke Yiqing Luo's net binding. Could it be that there was really nothing that could restrain this terrifying person? Yiqing Luo, who was sent flying slowly, propped herself up. Her slender fingers were still pressing against her chest. The failure of the net did not make her feel pity or dejected. Instead, he was blasted away by Xiaoba. He revealed a mocking sneer. That smile was so brilliant, it made Xiaoba feel uneasy for some reason. He originally thought that the shattering web would make Yiqing Luo turn pale with fright. And then it slowly dissipated. Something was wrong, something was very wrong. Yiqing Luo's expression was too strange. Just as the atmosphere was stifling and depressing, they stared at each other in silence. Suddenly, a deafening explosion came from not far away. Roar, roar, clang, clang. What followed were two sharp beastly cries. The horizon was instantly enveloped by a ball of flames. When Yiqing Luo heard this voice, her back instantly stiffened as she speedily glanced sideways towards the direction of the voice. On the horizon, Qi Yan's colorful phoenix feathers streaked across the sky. Shiju's figure flashed from time to time. It was the direction of Holy Maiden Institute. The Qi waves over there were tumultuous. The sand and stones on the ground flew everywhere, and there was a hurricane howling. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly expanded. The smile at the corner of his mouth slowly froze on his face. Dark Palace's people had already found the direction of Holy Maiden Institute. Chapter 2992. Still in the mood to care about others? By her ear, Xiaoba's gloomy voice was just inches away. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. She quickly regained her senses. But no matter how fast she was, she couldn't beat Xiaoba, who was already closing in on her. The incoming black evil aura landed directly on her shoulder. Oh! Yiqing Luo gave a dull moan as her face turned pale. Her figure swiftly retreated backwards, avoiding Xiaoba's attack range. She panted lightly. She quickly fed the remaining pills into her mouth. Little lass, don't worry, I will bring you to meet your group of brothers soon. Xiaoba saw that Yiqing Luo's gaze was still on the Sacred Maiden Institute's side after being struck by his palm as he laughed sinisterly. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she didn't hear what he said. As she panted lightly, her gaze quickly wandered around the Palace of Darkness's side. Finally, when she didn't see the figure she was looking for, she pursed her lips tightly as a sliver of panic surfaced on her face. Wolf Saint Technique and Fox Saint Technique were no longer around. Even that magical beast blood sacrifice which looked like a dinosaur had disappeared. Palace of Darkness's target was DMO Xian. Miao Ji's ascension had exposed DMO Xian's location. Those two people had definitely brought people and rushed over to the Sacred Maiden Institute. Even if Wolf Saint Technique and Fox Saint Technique were heavily injured. But no one could guarantee it. Palace of Darkness could only invite this madman from the Underworld Palace. As though to confirm Yiqing Luo's guess. It was just so coincidental. Over at the Sacred Maiden Institute's side, a burst of energy which seemed to be able to destroy the heaven and earth suddenly appeared. That burst of energy enveloped the entire Miao tribe in an instant. Endless surging profound energy charged, enveloping everything in the Miao tribe. Found it. Immediately following that, a sharp and steady voice broke through the air. Young Master Mo. Come over, the person in the dark has been found. A black figure appeared above the Sacred Maiden Pavilion. A majestic and violent profound energy was emitted from his body. His black robe was fluttering from the strong qi. At this moment, the seemingly young face of the youth was filled with seriousness. It was totally inconsistent with the temperament he was emitting. Following the sound of the voice, a white silhouette flew past. One in black and one in white, two slender but steady youths stood back to back. Yiqing Luo saw their faces clearly. Wasn't it Gui Wu and Zhou Mo? Ever since the disciple of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness attacked, neither Gui Wu nor Zhou Mo had any plans to take action. Zhou Mo would occasionally take action to clean up Kitty Li when she was injured. Gui Wu's intention was to watch with folded arms. In Yiqing Luo's heart, she more or less knew the reason behind this. The identities of Gui Wu and Zhou Mo were clearly extremely mysterious. Yiqing Luo was almost certain. These two people were definitely not from the Nirvana realm. In the Nirvana realm, when Yan Xiaoyi and the rest weren't in any real danger, the ghost martial artist would definitely not harm others. That was because, the moment Gui Wu made his move, that would be violating the balance of the Nirvana realm. Now, Gui Wu was not the only one who had taken action. Zhou Mo and Gui Wu also fought side by side. From this, it could be seen how powerful his opponent was. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale as it turned a little ugly. Yeah, I've never expected to see such powerful people in the lower realm. Xiaba also felt this powerful energy as he looked over with interest. Chapter 2993. Lengyan. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as her fingers clenched tightly. Secluded Palace has really put in a lot of effort. Just because of a favor they made two people from Hell Palace become their lackeys. Xiaba stared angrily at her as his eyes were filled with a strange gloomy coldness. Little lass trying to worm information out of this seat? You're still too tender. His gaping wound that revealed his flesh and ghastly white bones was also a ghastly sight to behold. However, I can tell you, Leng Yan is indeed over there, doing his mission. Yiqing Luo's face turned completely pale. She couldn't even maintain her pretense of composure. Over at Sacred Maiden Institute, there was really another madman from Hell Palace. One Xiaba had already made her anxious and she had no way to deal with him. There was another Leng Yan. How could Yan Xiaoyi and the rest be their match? Gui Wu and Zhou Mo, could they stop that madman called Leng Yan? I really don't know what's over there that is worth your attention. Xiaba sneered coldly as he swept a disdainful glance towards Sacred Maiden Institute's direction. Little lass, after this seat finishes dealing with you, I still need to go over to help. Since you're so worried over there, why not follow the seat over? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. You guys don't know the reason why Secluded Palace asked you to go over there? Saying that, she pointed towards Sacred Maiden Institute's direction. What motive? Isn't important. As long as this seat exterminates that piece of land, destroying everything in the Miao tribe, to return Secluded Palace's favor, that's enough. Apparently, Xiaba was still concerned about Yiqing Luo's lackey. Yiqing Luo's eyes darkened when she heard that. It was indeed as she had guessed. Based on the madman's character. Why would he search for Dmo Xian's whereabouts? Directly exterminating that piece of land to complete the mission would do. Then all the more she couldn't let Xiaba go over to Sacred Maiden Institute. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes as she sensed her heart, that profound jade heart which was slowly spreading its energy. She slowly let out a long breath. Still trying to struggle? Xiaba saw Yiqing Luo's look and couldn't help but ridicule her. Yiqing Luo abruptly opened her eyes as a cold ray of light flashed past. The corners of her lips curled up into an icy smile. You'll know very soon whether or not this is a final struggle. I've said it before, I'll let you know the consequences of angering me. Her slender fingers once again pressed on her chest. A bewitching red light blossomed from his palm. This action made Xiaba frown, as he didn't really understand what Yiqing Luo's motive was. If Xiaba took a closer look, perhaps he could see it. The place where Yiqing Luo's palm was pressing was not the heart. Instead, the location of the profound heart jade. He was right. It was the profound heart jade. That one and only divine phoenix profound heart jade. From the moment they realized that Dmo Xian was the target of the Nether Palace, Yiqing Luo had already decided on this idea. Her profound jade heart could urge her to release a strength that was even more formidable than that of the deep water ring. When he pressed his palm against the profound heart jade for the first time, Yiqing Luo had already taken out the tranquil bead which stabilized her divine phoenix profound heart jade. Her profound heart jade had been depleted numerous times. Forcefully activating the profound heart jade's energy, the consequence was that she might suffer from the backlash of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. But if she could control Xiaba to gain some time for Dmo Xian to cure the goo, all these would be worth it. Chapter 2994. The only thing that could restrain Xiaba was her divine phoenix profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo could sense that the profound heart jade in her body was stirring in response to her summoning. A scorching feeling slowly spread in her chest. The change in aura made Xiaba's gaze immediately turn towards Yiqing Luo. Don't tell me there's still some god relic? Xiaba opened his mouth coldly as his death god's eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo. But after staring for some time. But he didn't see Yiqing Luo moving at all. Xiaba frowned, the evil aura that lingered around his body seemed to be urging him to do something, as it continued to churn. No matter what, I will not let you have the chance to use it. Xiaba immediately lost the mood to tease Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's current state was simply too strange. That kind of fearless attitude. It really gave him an ominous premonition. Xiaba flew up and his palms, which were filled with evil qi, directly struck towards the top of Yiqing Luo's skull. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she mobilized the profound energy in her body and quickly displayed her footwork. Only she had just moved a step. It was as if Xiaba had already predicted where she would go next. She had yet to stand firm. Yiqing Luo felt a burst of sinister cold glint, like a sharp blade, pressing towards her. No matter how fast her speed was. At this moment she had barely avoided a fatal blow. The aftershock of that palm strike shook her so much that she felt as if her internal organs were churning inside her chest. Yiqing Luo felt a fishy sweetness in her throat as she spat out a mouthful of blood. It's time to end this, Xiaba said coldly. Looking at Yiqing Luo's extremely pale face, his lips tugged coldly as he gathered his evil qi once again. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as the hand which was pressing on her chest exerted more force. Just as Xiaba was about to attack again. Just as her profound heart jade was about to move and was about to activate its protection function. Suddenly, a warm current brushed past Yiqing Luo's chest. It easily suppressed the restless profound heart jade. This change, this warm current, made Yiqing Luo slightly stunned. He was still in a daze. Soon after, she felt a burning sensation of fullness, as if a raging fire had engulfed her chest. Oh! Yiqing Luo let out a painful moan. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. His body seemed to have suddenly lost all its strength, becoming as light as a feather. And at this moment, Xiaba, who was attacking Yiqing Luo. This palm didn't have the time to land. He was sent flying by the sudden burst of rays from Yiqing Luo's body. Xiaba retreated a few steps and looked at his palm in disbelief. He had yet to strike, and then he looked at the young girl in front of him. This is a breakthrough? Xiaba's eyes widened, and the red birthmark on his face expanded as he moved. The girl in front of him was engulfed in a storm. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth merged with the storm bit by bit and slowly seeped into the girl's body. It was a storm. It was like a sturdy protective shield. Even he was unable to get close to interrupt Yiqing Luo's advancement. He could only watch helplessly as the storm around the young girl's body surged madly, faster and faster. That lightning-fast speed kept gushing madly into Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo felt as if there was a roar ringing in her head. Her profound heart jade was scorching hot, as though she was in a sea of fire. Bam! It was as if something had knocked hard on his heart. Chapter 2995. Red light flickered in her clear and charming eyes, enchanting and elegant. Xiao Chen's red clothes were like fire, making the red light look even more resplendent, giving off a subduing aura. 3,000 strands of black hair danced in the air due to the violent surge of energy. Faintly, a few flame-like flower petals could be seen on the girl's fair and smooth forehead. Xiaba's body stiffened. Did he see wrongly? The girl's body was filled with surging profound force. The waves of bewitching red light, was it an illusion? That mark, how could it appear on a person from the lower realm? Xiaba's heart trembled and he immediately looked over. However, at the same time, the raging windstorm ferociously scurried into Yiqing Luo's body, as it completely merged into her body. The dazzling light pierced Xiaba's eyes, causing him to feel a stinging pain. When Evil Tyrant looked over again, the girl's black hair was like a waterfall, scattered over her shoulders. The red glow on his body also dissipated. His forehead was smooth and there were no marks on it. It was an illusion. It must have been an illusion. Xiaba's heart slowly calmed down. Little girl, do you think that you can deal with me just because you broke through the barrier? Xiaba smirked disdainfully and said with a cold smile, do you know that no matter how much you improve, my strength will always be above yours? The young girl, who was as pretty as a flower, looked at Xiaba indifferently. There was not the slightest hint of emotion on her beautiful face. It was as if he didn't appreciate Xiaba's confident words at all. Yiqing Luo's attitude made Xiaba's expression turned extremely ugly. To Yiqing Luo, this little prey. Xiaba only felt that. This last was really strange. Several times, it had exceeded his imagination. Xiaba was certain that Yiqing Luo wasn't his match. But, don't look at how Xiaba seemed to be deliberately teasing Yiqing Luo. In order to capture his prey for fun, he deliberately held back, allowing Yiqing Luo to make astonishing counterattacks time and time again. However, only Xiaba knew this clearly in his heart. He had long since been injured by Yiqing Luo for the first time. He no longer had the mood to tease her. Especially after Leng Yan was discovered by the two youths, one black and one white. He was even less inclined to stay in the lower realm. Although those two youths appeared to be young, they were extremely powerful. However, he couldn't sense their profound ranks or profound chi fluctuations at all. He could not sense it. There were only two possibilities. Firstly, those two were ordinary people. Secondly, those two people's profound ranks were at least 5 ranks higher than his. Obviously, those two belonged to the latter group. Xiaba had no choice but to face this seriously. Although their underworld palace was known for being daring and arrogant, they were not people who dared to act recklessly. But it has been preserved until now. It was also because no matter how arrogant they would absolutely not cross the bottom line of the balance of the 3 dimensions. Just like in the Earth domain, they committed atrocities and cultivated evil arts before things got out of hand. Even if the Emperor of the Earth realm knew about it, he would turn a blind eye to it. But now, they snuck into the lower realm and worked together with the gloomy palace to destroy the peace in the lower realm. Once this matter was known by the upper realm, those who had grievances against them would definitely suppress them. He did not want to lose his life for the sake of returning a favor to the Palace of Darkness. Xiaba clenched his withered fingers tightly, and the evil aura around his body quickly revolved. Chapter 2996. Yiqing Luo's surroundings, that surge of protective shield which was formed due to her advancement, had already disappeared. Xiaba didn't have any hesitation as his sinister attacks met hers head-on. He had to end this battle quickly. Xiaba's eyes turned gloomy as his sinister aura burst forth. Yiqing Luo's calm eyes quietly looked at the direction where Xiaba was attacking from. She could feel it clearly. Within her body, there seemed to be something, slowly brushing past all her internal injuries. As though she had been reborn. Her entire body felt extremely relaxed. Most importantly, earlier when she crossed hands with Xiaba's speed was even faster than hers. She was unable to detect Xiaba's silhouette at the first instance. She could only rely on her own judgment and acute senses to guess the direction of Xiaba's attack. But now, right after she had advanced, she could actually see through Xiaba's movements. Yiqing Luo's pupils flashed slightly. At the instance when Xiaba's sinister aura coiled around her, she clenched her fists tightly as her body suddenly rolled backwards, using an extremely strange posture to avoid Xiaba's attack. Yiqing Luo's figure was graceful and her unhurried movements made Xiaba slightly stunned. As though he was extremely shocked that Yiqing Luo was able to avoid his attack so easily. Xiaba frowned as he didn't believe it as he launched the next attack. The sinister aura surged as the airwaves became even more turbulent. His speed also increased by several notches. Only, just as Xiaba thought that he had no chance of losing, Yiqing Luo rolled on the ground again, but she didn't seem to be in a sorry state as she avoided this move. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo's figure swiftly retreated. She clenched her fingers tightly as her alluring eyes seemed to be burning with flames. The glower flame fan in her hands suddenly waved out numerous wind blades. Thunder rumbled as lightning flashed. Those wind blades were like sharp blades as they sliced through the sky full of flying sand. Xiaba's heart jolted as he narrowed his eyes sinisterly. Both his hands moved as he speedily avoided those wind blades. Swish, swish, swish. Helplessly, those wind blades' power was extremely huge and the quantity was huge. No matter how fast Xiaba's speed was. His body was brushed by several wind blades, leaving behind several blood scars. Xiaba's body spun in the air and landed heavily on the ground. He steadied himself and stared at the wound that had been grazed by the wind blade with a gloomy expression. It was just a promotion. And it was able to raise Yiqing Luo's ability to such an extent? Not only could he see through his moves, and it could even give him the strongest counterattack? This little prey had really given him too many surprises. These surprises, if they gave it to the Palace of Gloomy Darkness for nothing, it was not worth it at all. Xiaba's cold eyes flashed with a trace of sinister coldness. A thought formed in his mind. Xiaba's sinister eyes were filled with a ruthless and bloodthirsty cold glint. Yiqing Luo, you're really an interesting little thing. This seat has decided not to bother about whatever secluded palace, whatever favor. These ferocious and crazy words. This made Yiqing Luo's brows crease slightly. Xiaba wanted her to bring him to the Hell Palace? As though to verify Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Xiaba's maniacal and greedy eyes were staring at her without blinking. Those favors can't be compared to the uniqueness of your prey. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly. She sensed the profound energy which kept scouring her limbs and bones after the promotion. The profound grade which had not had any activity for a long time. This time round she was mysteriously promoted. Yiqing Luo herself felt that it was inconceivable. Chapter 2997. The discomfort from forcefully activating her profound jade heart was suppressed. The profound qi circulating within her body was also progressing in an orderly manner. As though there was some kind of energy guiding it. Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled earlier when her profound jade heart was about to activate its protective consciousness, that flash of warmth. Somehow she felt. There was an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Only no matter how she recalled. He could not recall when he had felt such a warm current. Leng Yin, according to the original plan, destroy the Miao tribe, then come over and help me bring this last to the underworld palace. She suddenly heard Xiaba's gloomy and cold voice. Destroy the Miao tribe. These 4 words made Yiqing Luo suddenly regain her senses. Following that, she saw Xiaba holding a ball of evil qi in his palm as he was talking to that evil qi. Very quickly, she heard a hoarse and gloomy male voice coming from the evil qi. You can't even catch a young lass? You still need my help? This month, I am the lord of the underworld palace. How dare you disrespect me? Xiaba's hair stood on end as he bellowed in rage. That gloomy male voice sneered in disdain. Yes, 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 Lord Hell, I'll destroy the Miao tribe right now and come over to help you. Saying that, the black qi in Xiaba's palm dispersed. Bam bam bam. Following that, the entire space started to shake violently. The Miao tribe, which had already turned into ruins, started to slowly collapse downwards. Yiqing Luo's vision looked towards the direction of the Sacred Maiden Institute. As expected. On that side, a violent gale was howling. Endless sand and rocks were flying, obscuring everything over there. Only the scarlet flame, which was overflowing with colors, brought a trace of brilliance. Profound qi clashed, clashing continuously. Apparently, a fierce battle was about to break out. The ground collapsed, those disciples who were still alive, or the clansmen who were fleeing in agony. It made Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo and the others didn't stop that man called Leng Yin? No way. She absolutely could not let Leng Yin destroy the Miao tribe. She could not let Leng Yin alarm Miao Yi, who was in the secret room. She could not disturb Xian's Gu removal. Once the Gu removal was interrupted, not only Miao Yi and Dmo Xian might suffer the backlash of the Gu worm. Their lives would also be in danger. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's heart trembled violently. It was as if something was ruthlessly strangling her heart, causing her to feel stifled and flustered, unable to calm down. Tieske, is there really something over there that you're so interested in? Xiaba clicked his tongue as his eyes wandered between Gu Jingyu and Yiqing Luo. This gaze of yours is much more passionate than when you look at your little lover. Yiqing Luo totally didn't have any intention to bother about him as she leapt up and charged towards the direction of Sacred Maiden Courtyard. A strong gust of wind blocked her way. The demonic energy wrapped around her, sealing her footsteps. Xiaba laughed coldly. Little girl, even if you rush over there, it will be useless. Leng Yan's destructive power is unparalleled. Don't think you'll be safe just because you found 2 helpers from other realms to help you stop him. What a pity. Leng Yan's goal is to destroy the Miao tribe, to turn the Miao tribe from this world into a void. Void space. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped. She abruptly raised her eyes as she stared at Xiaba. You didn't hear wrongly, even if they can stop Leng Yan's men, but they can't stop Leng Yan's destructive power. After tomorrow, the Miao tribe will completely disappear from this world, falling into a void space. Chapter 2998. All living things in the Miao tribe will turn into nothingness. All living things in the Miao tribe will turn into nothingness. All living things in the Miao tribe will turn into nothingness. This sentence kept on replaying in Yiqing Luo's mind. Yiqing Luo's brain was so shocked by this sentence that her eardrums were buzzing. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed together. The pain was so intense that she could barely breathe. Xian, her Xian. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly enlarged. Young lass, you'd better obediently follow this seat to the underworld palace. If you're able to gain this seat's liking, this seat can still take you in as a disciple, and in future, you might even inherit this seat's position. Xiaba looked at Yiqing Luo's extremely pale face as he laughed sinisterly. However, the current Yiqing Luo totally didn't hear it. Her mind was filled with Dmo Xian's figure. His mind was filled with evil tyrant's words. Xian was still in the process of curing the goo. If Leng Yan destroyed the Saintess Pavilion, all the living beings of the Miao tribe were destroyed in an instant, reduced to nothingness. Even if it was Dmo Xian, he would not be able to escape this calamity. She would never let that happen. She could not let Xian disappear. She had to rush to Xian's side. She had to protect Xian. Yiqing Luo's pair of eyes gradually surfaced a trace of extremely strange red glow. That redness in Yiqing Luo's pupils was like a thin thread spreading outwards. It looked extremely horrifying. Xiaba was stunned by Yiqing Luo's vicious aura. Following that, he was overwhelmed with joy. He was on the verge of going crazy as he stared at Yiqing Luo in excitement. Previously, when he said that he wanted to take Yiqing Luo in as his disciple, it was merely because he had the intention to tease her. But now, he sincerely wanted to take Yiqing Luo in as his disciple. He never expected that he would be able to encounter such a good seedling in the lower realms. His understanding of this lass was constantly being refreshed. This girl, regardless of whether it was her ever-changing strength or his personality, they were all to his liking. Xiaba was ecstatic as he went up to pull Yiqing Luo. Now, even though he was being criticized by the other lunatics of the underworld palace, he also had to ignore the favor he owed to the Palace of Darkness. But in Yiqing Luo's eyes, he didn't exist at all. Yiqing Luo sped towards the direction of the Sacred Maiden Institute as she sped off. His speed was like lightning. Evil Tyrant's hand caught nothing. Evil Tyrant looked at his empty hand and smiled instead of getting angry. His eyes were full of admiration. Then he quickened his pace and chased after them. One thing followed another. No one noticed. Amidst the wreckage of the ruins, a slender figure climbed out of the mound unsteadily. That figure was in a sorry state and smelled horrible. Vaguely, one could only see that the figure was wearing a white chiffon dress. In that person's hand, there was a corpse that had already been smashed beyond recognition. The man slowly raised his head and looked in the direction of the Saintess yard. Then he casually tossed the corpse in his hand away. Then, step by step, he walked towards the Saintess yard with great difficulty. The corpse that had been abandoned by that person rolled on the ground. Under the mangled flesh, one could barely make out the face, Yanjin Fei. Outside the Saintess yard, majestic and powerful energy enveloped the surroundings. Chapter 2999. Yiqing Luo had just rushed over. Sand and pebbles flew in front of him. It carried a strong smell of blood. Qing Luo, why are you here? Several voices came from not far away. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest stood back to back, holding the weapons in their hands. Their bodies were covered with obvious wounds. Yiqing Luo knew that her current reaction was to give the Palace of Seclusion a clue to look for Dmo Xian. She didn't dare to look in the direction of the secret chamber. She could only keenly perceive the Saintess yard, with the obstruction of Yan Xiaoyi and the others. Furthermore, there were countless goo worm traps in Saintess courtyard. The people from the Palace of Darkness were only in the outer courtyard of the Saintess Institute. Where's Master Gui Wu and young Master Mo? Yiqing Luo's gaze quickly wandered around the surroundings. She had to find Leng Yan first and stop him. However, as soon as her voice fell, a swift and fierce attack came from behind him. Yiqing Luo reacted. Just as he was about to dodge, but his gaze swept past Yan Xiaoyi and the rest. Her body had already reflexively opened up the glowing flame fan. Her 5 fingers moved, stirring up a violent wind blade. Facing the attack coming from behind, she directly pressed forward. It was Evil Tyrant. He had caught up. Evil Tyrant's attack. Yiqing Luo's current position was totally unable to hide. If she dodged, Xiaba's attack must have landed on Yan Xiaoyi and the rest. She was a profound practitioner of the Sky Profound Realm, and she could only barely fight against Xiaba with the help of external forces. No matter how sharp Yan Xiaoyi and the rest were, he was also unable to dodge Evil Tyrant's attack. He couldn't let Xiaba hurt Yan Xiaoyi and the rest. Yiqing Luo didn't hide and could only move forward. But she was in a passive position after all. The speed of his counterattack was also slightly slower. Evil Tyrant's attack was blocked by more than half. but there was still a large portion of the remaining power which shocked Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, are you all right? Xiao Jin shielded Yan Xiao Yi behind him and asked worriedly as he approached. Just focus on dealing with that bunch of people from the Palace of Seclusion, don't let them enter the Sacred Maiden Institute again. Yiqing Luo stopped Xiao Jin's footsteps sharply. The Palace of Seclusion has found help from the Earth boundary. Xiao Jin's pupils shrank. Earth domain? People from the Earth domain dared to sneak into the lower domain? Aren't they afraid that the Historian of Balance will find them? Even now, he couldn't use the power of the Huangfu family. This was to prevent the Historian from finding out and prevent the Huangfu clan from making a fuss. The Palace of Dark Seclusion had blatantly colluded with the people from the upper realm. Were they not afraid of punishment? They can't escape. Yiqing Luo only left this sentence as she pressed on the place where she was shocked by the remnant force, as her figure speedily skimmed upwards. Her dress fluttered in the wind, leaving behind an alluring afterimage. Following the direction that Kitty Lee had pointed, she quickly moved her feet. A moment later he saw 3 figures entangled together behind the Saintess courtyard. That energy, which seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth, continued to spread its evil aura as they fought. This was trying to destroy the evil energy of the Miao tribe? Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as the glower flame fan speedily flew towards that evil chi. Just as it was about to sever that evil chi, Evil Tyrant's figure swayed as he laughed sinisterly. Young lass, this seat wants to bring you to the Hell Palace, and that is already going against the deal with the Palace of Seclusion. Now, I absolutely cannot let you destroy the second deal between this seat and the Palace of Seclusion. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and without any hesitation, she turned her hand and attacked once again. Her target was very clear, obviously not Evil Tyrant. Chapter 3000. Xiaba squinted his eyes. This lass had detected Leng Yan's motive so quickly? She could even accurately identify the exact location of the evil chi which Leng Yan had released. It seemed, ever since Yiqing Luo had advanced, her perceptive ability had increased by leaps and bounds. Not only could she differentiate everything around her, furthermore he was able to see through all of his attacks. One must know that he was a sky-profound 9th grade cultivator, adding on to the evil arts which he had cultivated. Even if it was a sky-profound cultivator and above who fought with him, they might not be able to gain any advantage in his hands. But Yiqing Luo could. Xiaba was certain. No matter how Yiqing Luo advanced, that was just a level up, and that was only a sky-profound lower-level cultivator. But it was just a level up and it had upgraded Yiqing Luo's powerful technique? Unbelievable. It was simply too unbelievable. Xiaba's eyes were burning with excitement. Cut off the source of the evil chi. As long as she continued, everything would end. Xiaba didn't stop Yiqing Luo from cutting off the evil chi which Leng Yan had released. On the contrary, he pretended to be vigilant, as though he was worried that Yiqing Luo would suddenly make a move as he made a prediction to dodge sideways. This dodge opened up a path for Yiqing Luo, giving Yiqing Luo an opportunity to dash towards the direction of the evil chi which was spreading. Yiqing Luo was still guarding against Xiaba, in case Xiaba stopped her from cutting off the source of the evil chi, to stop them from ruining the Miao tribe's plan. However, Evil Tyrant unexpectedly made a preemptive move at the critical moment. This movement seemed to be a prediction error. But Yiqing Luo felt that something was amiss. For someone like Xiaba, how could he possibly make such an obvious prediction error? Little Qing Luo. Zhou Mo sensed Yiqing Luo nearing while they were entangled. He retreated backwards and noticed Yiqing Luo pouncing towards the spreading evil chi as his face turned pale. Little Qing Luo, you can't cut off that evil chi by force. Otherwise the evil energy will corrode your body. Zhou Mo shouted anxiously. Yiqing Luo's footsteps suddenly halted. Following that, her charming eyes swiftly shifted onto Xiaba. This was Xiaba's motive? He purposely made a mistake in his movement to lure her into taking the bait and sever the evil energy. After the demonic energy invaded her body, and then used the demonic energy to control her. Damn it. Xiaba saw that his motive was about to be achieved but was stopped by that white-robed young man. He was so infuriated that his face flushed red as he stared viciously at that young man who was approaching Yiqing Luo. If he had known earlier that this white-robed youth would have seen through his intentions, he would not have been able to escape. Earlier on when Yiqing Luo wanted to rush forward to cut off the evil chi, he should not have stopped her. Zoemo took quick steps to Yiqing Luo's side as he grabbed one of her arms. With little master and Ah Wu around, what are you running over for? They want to turn all the living beings in the Miao tribe into nothingness, and then directly turn into a void space. Yiqing Luo followed Zomo's force, as she retreated a few steps away from that evil qi which was still spreading. Yiqing Luo's face was filled with anxiety. They are from the Earth realm, people from the Underworld Palace. They don't want to enter the Saintis Institute. They want to destroy the Saintis Institute once and for all. A cold glint flashed across Zomo's eyes as he glared at Xiaba. These people are despicable. Chapter 3001. Don't be silly. Zoemo tightened his grip on her arm and lowered his voice. I've heard of Hell Palace's reputation. If you're corroded by the demonic aura of Hell Palace, no matter how strong your willpower is, you won't be able to resist it. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly and lowered her eyes. Now Xiaba was waiting for her to be corroded by the evil energy so that he could control her. Initially, Yiqing Luo was still thinking that there was a possibility that she could rely on her willpower to contend against it. However, Zomo's words had clearly explained everything. The evil aura of the Hell sect was not something that she could restrain. Could it be, did she really have no choice but to use her last resort? Using the power of the divine phoenix profound heart jade, he lured the historian of balance to the lower realm. As long as the historian of balance arrived, Leng Yen and Xiaba's plan had to be stopped, and the palace of Umbra would also be investigated. However, if the power of the divine phoenix profound heart jade really attracted the historian of balance from the upper three realms, the secret of her profound heart jade really couldn't be concealed any longer. The lower realm would probably never have peace again. Most importantly, once she suffered a backlash from the profound jade heart, she had no way to personally witness DMO Xian's successful detoxification and safe return. Alright, I'll go help Ah Wu first. Don't act recklessly. With this young lord and Ah Wu here, what are you worried about? This young master will help you get rid of these dregs. Zoemo was paying attention to the direction of the ghost martial sect and didn't notice Yiqing Luo's current expression. He consoled her with a few words, patted Yiqing Luo's shoulder hard and immediately rushed towards Gui Wu. Due to certain reasons, the fight between Gui Wu and Leng Yen was somewhat restricted. He had to hurry and tell Ghost Martial about what he had heard from Yiqing Luo. Little girl, I've taken a fancy to you, and I want you to follow me unharmed. But since you're so disobedient, then don't blame me for not knowing how to show mercy to my little disciple. Xiaba's sinister eyes flickered with a cold light as he watched Zoemo leave. His figure speedily dashed towards Yiqing Luo. Zoemo was there just now. He couldn't figure out Zomo's identity. He did not dare to act rashly. Furthermore, Yiqing Luo and Zomo's exchange earlier had already transmitted too much information. It wasn't just because of the unfathomable strength of this white-clad youth called Zoemo. The strongest one was the black-robed young man who was fighting with Leng Yen. In other words, he was the ghost martial grandmaster that they spoke of. Everyone could see that. Gui Wu had not even used his full strength. All he did was stop Leng Yen and evade his attacks. Obviously, he was worried about something. If once the Gui Wu no longer cared, even if he and Leng Yen joined hands, they would still be able to suppress Gui Wu. But the commotion it would cause would be too great. Furthermore, their goal was to destroy the Miao tribe. Causing such a commotion, if those people from the upper realm were to turn a blind eye to it, it would be too fake. He had to end the battle quickly. Evil Tyrant urged Leng Yen through the special connection he had with him. While directly making a vicious move, he pulled Yiqing Luo towards him. Little lass, I've given you a sweet taste but you don't want it. Why must you let yourself be riddled with scars? This seed is not someone who has tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Xiaba's fingers turned into a claw. As long as you're still breathing after I bring you back to the Underworld Palace, this seat will be able to save you. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as the agitation which was suppressed in her heart kept surging. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.